Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. When we look back at everything that's happened from Chapter 1 up to this Chapter 1149, there's a feeling that hits me, and I just can't ignore it. The feeling that Shanks was never just Shanks. Maybe from the very beginning, he carried within him a piece of the world that no one was ever meant to bear. Something that even Luffy will never fully understand. And maybe not even Shanks himself truly does. And now, after what we saw in 1149, there's no way to look at all of this without thinking, what if deep down, Imu-Sama has been preparing Shanks' body all along? Because when Imu's voice appears in that moment, cutting through everything, breaking the very connection between past and present, making the Holy Knight stop, making the Giants look at Gunko like she just became a living shadow, I felt like all of this had been building for decades. It wasn't sudden. It was already taking root. Maybe back when Shanks was still a boy on Roger's ship. Maybe even before that. But first, let me focus on what happened in this chapter. Because what happened in that moment when Gaban dropped his axe? That moment shattered the air. The entire scene breathes pain. Gaban's soul breaks right there. Not because of the arrows, but because he saw destiny. He saw that he couldn't save the child. He saw, with his observation haki, that the future was inevitable. And he's not the kind of man to lie to himself. He dropped the axe because the battle was no longer his. And when Gunko pierces him with those 3 arrows, it's not just Gaban's body that falls, it's time itself that collapses with him. It's a broken promise, a legacy failing before the abyss. Colin is there, watching his father say goodbye with a simple, "I'm sorry," and everything we thought was strong suddenly feels small. Even Elbaf, with all its pride, falls silent. And then comes the cut. The kind of cut Oda only does when he's about to change the world again. The transition to the flashbacks is quick, but brutal. We see that woman crying, screaming, "Father!" And suddenly Gunko isn't just an enemy. She has a past. Her memory starts to shake. We see her younger self with Brook, dancing in the middle of the music, hearing him say he wanted to be a pirate, and it's so much more than it seems. Because that's when we realize that Gunko was once a dreaming child. Someone who lived something light. Someone who maybe got lost along the way. And the heaviest part is seeing that deep down, Brook remembers. He looks at her and feels it. How similar they are. He says that, but the subtext runs deeper. How their pain is the same. And then, before the memory can say more, Imu cuts everything. This is where the theory begins to take shape. Because the way Imu's voice enters isn't natural. It's not like a command. It's not an order. It's a possession. It's as if the deity who rules from the top of the world is no longer content with just sitting on the throne. It's as if now he's decided to descend, to take bodies, to shove his soul into the flesh of those who still breathe. And the way he does this with Gunko makes me think of something. What if this was just the first test? What if Gunko's body is just a bridge, a draft, a rehearsal for something bigger? Imu's final line is direct. I will demonstrate what it means to be ruled by God. It's not a threat, it's a declaration. And so I go back to the question, what if the true body he wants, the one he's been touching for years, is Shanks? Maybe Shanks has been fighting all this time against something that lives inside him. Maybe he's felt Imu's presence since he was a child. Maybe back then, when he was still little, there was already a voice that whispered to him in his sleep. Maybe Roger noticed it. Maybe that was the reason Roger cried when he saw Shanks holding that handkerchief and weeping. Back in Chapter 966. Who knows? And what if Shanks, throughout his life, chose to control that presence? Not accept it, but contain it, become a living seal. That would explain why he never went too far, why he never got too involved, why he always backed away the moment everything seemed ready to collapse. And then, in Chapter 1149, when Imu enters Gunko's body, it's like he's telling the world, I don't need to wait anymore. Now, look at what's happening in parallel. The Holy Land is in flames. Order is broken. The Holy Knights are being summoned like pawns on a board where the pieces no longer follow the rules. And it's in this setting that Imu chooses to act directly, not as a shadow anymore, but as a presence. And if he starts with Gunko, who might just be a girl who once danced with Brook, then the real question is, who's next? And I think that's where Shanks comes in. Maybe Imu's true plan was never to rule the world through the celestial dragons. Maybe he never cared about the world government as it is today. Maybe that was always a shell, a vessel. The real plan might have always been to find the perfect body, one with charisma, with power, with pure conqueror's haki, but also with an empty space, a crack, a doubt. And what if Shanks, even while being this symbol of trust, this pillar for Luffy in the free world, has actually carried a pain inside him that never healed? The question is simple. If Shanks is the son of Figurlin Garling, and if Garling isn't just an old knight, but a man now seen sitting among the Gorosei, then maybe Shanks' blood was chosen from birth to carry a legacy far beyond his name. Maybe the red-haired man came into this world marked, Not with the scar on his face, that came later, but with something no one can see, a connection, Imu's mark. And I know, it might sound heavy to say it like this, but look at everything we've seen so far. Oda never throws out a name like Figureland by accident. When that name first appeared in the Red Movie Data book, it seemed like just a cool detail, but now we understand it was a code, a signal that Shanks was never an ordinary man. And when Chapter 1086 revealed that Shanks, still a baby, was found inside a chest by Roger, that chest coming directly from God Valley, it became clear that this boy didn't end up there by chance. God Valley was wiped off the map, an island erased from the world. But this baby was saved, and Roger didn't look at him as a prisoner. He took the child onto his ship, raised him like a son, maybe by instinct, maybe because he knew who the boy's father was, or maybe because he saw in that child a chance to break the cycle. But what if the child had already been chosen? What if, from birth, Shanks' body carried the mark that connects him directly to Imu? Think with me. If there's someone in this world who could be the perfect vessel for Imu to fully manifest, that person would have to meet 3 conditions: noble blood, superior haki, and a position in the world that allows them to act without raising suspicion. And only Shanks meets all 3. He was born a Tenryu Bito, son of Garling, so he's already part of the Holy Circle. But he was raised outside of it, with Roger's pirates, growing up free, learning to smile at the world. He wields Conqueror's haki at a level that few in the world can even grasp, stopping Akainu with a single blow, making Aramaki freeze in fear, and splitting the sky with Blackbeard without even breaking a sweat. And more than that, he has access to the top. He enters the room of the Gorosei. He sits with them, and the 5 most powerful men in the world government, men who rule the world, don't treat him as a threat. They listen. But what if they listen because they know? What if they don't listen out of respect, but out of fear? Because maybe deep down, they know that the boy saved from God Valley is the only one who carries the seal. The mark, the same one that will, one day, allow Imu to fully control him, just like Gunko was controlled. But instead of being a test or a trial, this would be the final plan, the definitive body, the perfect vessel, the ideal steed for the god who hides in the shadows to return in full force. And I think Shanks knows it, or at least feels it, even if he doesn't say it, because think, why hasn't someone like him become the Pirate King? He has the strength, the crew, allies on every island. He's respected by all, even those who've never met him, but he chooses to remain at the edge, watching, intervening here and there, cutting off hands, saving Luffy, sealing conflicts. He acts like someone pruning chaos, but maybe deep down, he's just trying to stop his own chaos from spreading. Maybe Shanks is the seal, a human seal, fighting against his own downfall, fighting to keep Imu from escaping from within. And the craziest part is, this theory doesn't contradict what we've seen so far. It explains it. It explains why Roger never told him everything. It explains why Shanks cries when he hears that Luffy said the same words as Joy Boy. It explains why he moves with more fear than ambition. And it explains why, when he looks at Luffy, he smiles that sad smile. That smile of someone who knows that in the end, he himself might be the obstacle the boy will have to overcome. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.